Randy, Tio, and Shirley are three characters first introduced in Trails from Zero and Trails to Azure, otherwise known as the Crossbell Arc in the Kiseki series. Although I consider it to be the best arc out of the three, these two games have not been officially released in the West. With the PS4 Kai versions releasing in Japan in spring of 2020, there might be a chance of it coming to the West, but it still might just be a dream. For some Western players, these three characters are first officially introduced in Cold Steel 3, and while the game does give you some background information, most of it is minimal. It's enough to get you through the story in Cold Steel 3, but not enough to really get to know the characters. So I'm going to introduce you to these three characters and tell you all about them. Of course, this should be obvious, but I'll give a disclaimer anyway. There will be spoilers for the Crossbell Arc, so if you maybe want to play those games in the future and don't want events and characters' mysteries spoiled, you should probably skip this. Tio and Randy are two of the main four protagonists in the Crossbell series, with the other two being Lloyd and Ellie. Those four make up the group known as the Special Support Section, or the SSS, which is a unique department within the police force, focusing on mundane tasks that help the public in order to help regain confidence in the police, as well as not being strictly regulated by the higher-ups, allowing them some degree of freedom. At this time, corruption is widespread in the government and mafias have free reign of Crossbell. The Crossbell PD are powerless to stop it due to the corruption also spreading into the upper levels of the department. The SSS on the other hand would act like bracers, taking on tasks or odd jobs to help Crossbell citizens and make a difference where the police couldn't or wouldn't. Each character in the SSS has their own background, but we're not going to cover Lloyd or Ellie this time and focus only on Tio and Randy, who both have a grim past. During the events of Zero, the SSS faces off against the remnants of the DG cult, who were a secret organization that denied the existence of the goddess Eidos and worshipped a different greater entity. They conducted many inhumane experiments on children kidnapped from different nations to test the drug Gnosis, which allowed them to share knowledge with the Zero child, and thus would be allowed to transform her into their god. Before their goals were realized, they were wiped out in the events before Zero through a joint effort between Bracers, the Crossbell PD, and the armies of different nations. Tio was one of the many kidnapped children experimented on, but is the only survivor. As a result of the experiments, she became apathetic, but gained enhanced senses, being able to hear faint sounds normal people can't pick up on, read emotions of people and animals, and detect subtle changes in the environment, such as the higher elements. After her rescue at the age of 8, she was reunited with her parents, but due to her apathy, there was some friction in their relationship. At age 11, she started working for the Epstein Foundation research team before transferring to the SSS at the age of 14. Here she focused on testing the orbital staff as well as the Aeon system, a link between human and machine that enhances her abilities. Despite starting off as someone who is a bit cold to the SSS or disconnected at times, she begins to warm up to them as they spend more time together. The rest of the SSS eventually learn of Tio's past and her difficulties finding meaning in life, and give their full support to help her through it. She has normal stereotypical teenage girl interests, such as liking cute animals like Mishi, and her personality in Cold Steel 3 is a result of the nurturing and growth she has had in the Crossbell Arc. Randy's story is darker in a different sense. His full name is Randolph Orlando, but his friends call him Randy. Born into one of the two strongest Jaeger Corps in Zemuria, the Red Constellation, he was given a knife at the age of 4, a gun at 6, killed 2 people at the age of 9, and became platoon leader at the age of 12. He was given the name Red Reaper for his deadliness and was the second strongest in the Corps only before the War God, his father and leader of the Corps. He was groomed to eventually lead the Red Constellation as the new War God, however he left after his friend's death. He later joined the Crossbell Guardian Force, which was like a military force but lacked any real physical or political power due to Crossbell's unique political state. He was then discharged over an altercation with the commander, but joined the SSS shortly after through a recommendation by the vice commander. He has a playboy personality and gets along with women very well, although his probability of picking up a girl is about 50-50, and the SSS does keep him in line. That doesn't stop him from drooling over them or looking at risque magazines though. He develops a strong relationship with all members of the SSS, especially Lloyd, who becomes like a brother to him. Despite showing a cheerful exterior, he never forgave himself for what he did during his Jaeger days, killing countless people and using a village to accomplish one of his missions that caused his friend's death. He kept this all to himself, deflecting questions about his past with jokes. But everything eventually came out when the SSS had to confront the Red Constellation, and like how the SSS accepted Tio, they also accepted Randy's past without question and forgave him, even when he couldn't forgive himself. With the support of his friends at the SSS, he was able to come to terms with his past and with the Red Constellation and move on, with the SSS becoming his new family. And last but certainly not least, we have Shirley Orlando, Randy's cousin and daughter of Sigmund Orlando, the War God's younger brother. First introduced in Trails to Azure when the Red Constellation first makes their debut, she was born into the life of a Jaeger, like Randy, learning the skills needed to survive on the battlefield. She also became a platoon leader at a young age, and is a talented soldier who was given the name Bloody Shirley for her ferocity. She seeks the thrill of battle and is incredibly powerful, even defeating Randy in a one-on-one fight without much effort. Despite being a deadly Jaeger, she has a whimsical personality and can be mistaken for a normal teenage girl while not on the battlefield. She has a soft side to her as a cat lover, which was referenced in Cold Steel by Fee, and she also helped the SSS with a missing cat request without being asked. Although it seems like she might have a redemption moment in Azure, she doesn't change her ways, though she does develop some respect for the SSS. When they were leaving after her defeat at the Azure tree, she had the opportunity to execute a sneak attack, but decided not to before passing out. So these are the 3 characters from Crossbell who were probably introduced to you for the first time in Cold Steel 3. It's one thing to watch a YouTube video or read a wiki to get the character information, and it's a whole other thing to play through the game and experience their history firsthand. But it can be hard to go back and play the previous games, especially when you can't buy a copy of it. I'm going to keep wishing that the Kai games will be localized in the West so that everyone can enjoy these masterpieces. But until then, hopefully you leave with some newfound interest in these characters who played a small role in Cold Steel 3, but made a big difference in the conflicts of Crossbell.